Hello, this is Reverend Barbara Kawa coming at you from the homestead. And tonight we're going to be talking in this masterclass about signs and symbols, what they mean, what they're here for, why do we even need to pay attention to them? What's the point? So when we talk about signs and symbols, we're talking about the ones that in general come from spirit. And signs and symbols have been coming to us for even since the Egyptian times with hieroglyphics and things like this. So therefore, they've been around for centuries. We've been communicating with each other with signs and symbols. Words are symbols, except that our unconscious mind and our soul don't understand words in particular. They understand signs and symbols. Imagine that. How cool is it that that's how it comes through? So spirit, meaning angels, archangels, ascended masters, beings of love and light. We've got deceased loved ones, deceased pets, and any beings of love and light that want to connect with us and basically give us information based on our needs in that moment. So there are two kinds of signs that appear. There are the universal ones, and those are the ones that everybody recognizes. And I'm not just talking about spiritual signs and symbols, although that's what we'll be getting into. So the universal ones can be things like, if you look at the butterfly behind me, a butterfly is a symbol. A universal one is your lotus flower, the sign of the cross, the Star of David. All of those are universal ones that most everybody will know what they are when they see them. So they're universal, everybody understands it. And so then you've got the general signs and symbols that can have many meanings. So there are so many different kinds, numbers, feathers, any of the, there's hundreds and hundreds of different types of signs and symbols. What's the difference between a sign and a symbol? A symbol is a representation that has a background meaning to it, to the person that is viewing the sign or hearing about the sign, or I should say symbol. A sign is something that we've asked for. So, you know how some people go, God, send me a sign that I'm doing the right thing or I'm on the right path, that kind of thing. So we're looking at different types of signs that appear when we ask for an answer. And, we do that kind of thing all the time, spirit, show me a sign, deceased loved one, show me a sign, that kind of thing. So your symbol is an actual item that represents something either to yourself or to the person that you're talking to. So as an example, I was doing a reading with a lady and, her deceased loved one happened to pop in and they were giving me the sign or the symbol actually of a red rose. And in that moment, I'm like, I'm not sure what this means, in the context of this reading, because it didn't seem to have a place for it. So I told her about it and she goes, oh, that's my grandmother. She used to grow red roses. So it doesn't always necessarily mean something to you, although it could. So the symbol, so as an example, another symbol is a cardinal. Many people believe that their deceased loved ones come in the form of a cardinal. And so therefore, that particular time whenever they see a cardinal, some people even have a butterfly as a symbol of their deceased loved one. So it's really particular to the person when it comes to a symbol. A sign is more general. So it may have many meanings to many different people. There is all kinds of stuff on the internet that will tell you the meaning of a cardinal as an example. However, and that's where it differs from it being a symbol. A symbol is something that already has a meaning to you. A sign is something that is in general that you may have to figure out what it actually means. So we've got all kinds of different types of signs and symbols, and it can get overwhelming to try and figure it out. And that's part of the fun of the signs and the symbols, because then we have the chance to be the detective. And all of these signs and symbols, they actually can come anywhere in our life. They can come through in dreams. They can come through in our waking moments. So we can see a headline to a newspaper. We can hear music. Feathers are a really good thing that people see all the time. And the trick is with your signs or symbols, the idea is that it appears in a place where there are no feathers, as an example. No way that there could be dimes or quarters. It used to be pennies, but pennies here in Canada don't really exist anymore. So looking for the different signs and symbols and their meanings, and they may have a string of meanings. So the different types of signs and symbols there are like I mentioned, feathers, hearing the lyrics to a song, dimes, and sometimes even quarters. That's a real good story I have for that one. And there's, flowers, numbers, smells. There's could be clouds, dreams and visions, all kinds of different things around us. They can appear. One of my favorites is when I'm driving along and I see like a transport truck or one of those delivery trucks, and it'll have like a particular wording on there that pertains to what I'm thinking about. So I was thinking about my angels and archangels and all those beings, and thinking about, I really enjoy being able to communicate with them. Then a truck goes by and it says, "We are here to take care of your every need." Oh my gosh. I almost, I was burst out laughing. I was laughing so hard because it came in at the exact moment I was thinking about my angels and archangels. And so that was their message to me. So it can appear in wording. The dime story. This is a good one. One of my friends, both her parents had passed away not that long before this story. And she was saying, that everywhere she finds dimes all the time, near the washing machine, beside the couch, near the bed, everywhere she finds these dimes. And she knows that it's her parents that are sending the dimes. Well, here's the funny part. So here she is. She's about to embark on a big renovation to her house. I believe she was doing the kitchen, but I'm not exactly sure. And then all of a sudden, quarters started appearing instead of dimes. And so she asked me about it. She goes, why are there quarters now? And I started laughing because I had a vision of her father telling her that he was giving her a raise in her allowance, per se, in order so he could help pay for the renovation. Now, granted, quarters aren't really going to do it. However, it was the wonderful thought that her father wanted to help her with the renovations, so she didn't have that much to pay. It's really funny when these things come in that way. These signs and symbols are meant to be able to guide us on our path, so that we can understand a little bit better. And also, it's kind of nice, especially when you're getting it from a deceased loved one, that they're thinking of you and they're sending you a sign of some sort. People frequently talk about lights flickering. That's another sign. And that is particular to the person. So a lot of times these signs and symbols are particular to the person, and it may take a little detective work. Now, a lot of you probably have dreams. And a lot of times within the dreams, there are signs and symbols that we need to be able to pay attention to so that we can have an easier time of deciphering it. It's not always easy to decipher dreams because they're usually metaphorical. They're not direct, as in, direct that you'd actually understand it directly what the actual dream is about. However, if you pay attention, you can see different signs and symbols within it. The other day, I had a dream of myself and my sister at my parents' cottage, and it seemed so real. I thought for sure when I woke up that I would wake up there. And it was so real, and the grass was green, the trees had leaves on them. We were sitting and it was a nice, warm, sunny day. Those are all symbols or signs. Because if it was wintertime or everything was dead and all of this kind of stuff, that would mean something different than it being lush and green and beautiful. So it's looking at that and going, oh, it could mean that the relationship with my sister is going to be very lush and green and growing. Also, my sister could be a sign or a symbol of something else. And there's so many dream interpretation books out there. So, well, not only books, but, things you can download, stuff like that, that will give you the interpretation of what these different signs and symbols could mean. Now, please be careful when you're looking up signs and symbols on the internet, no matter what it is, because it may not be what it actually means. What I would suggest is that as you read these things, see if it actually jives. Is it something that really jives with you or not? And that's what it is it's everything needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because when we're doing interpretations, there can be misinterpretations made. So it's just being aware of that. These things that guide us, the signs and symbols, are not exact, and that's okay. They're meant as a guide. However, they can really be helpful. One of my favorite things to do is, as I'm driving, being safe, of course, I like to scan license plates for numbers, because repeating numbers are one of my absolute favorite things to look out for. It's very easy to see them. And repeating numbers, so they're like 111, 222, 333, 444, 555. Those are the ones I generally look for. And they can appear on the license plate as a phone number on a vehicle. Sometimes even at the top of a taxi, there's a phone number, and it'll have, like, I know there's one taxi company that has, like, it's all fours. So it's 444 4444. And whenever I see that, I'm like, oh, look, my ascended masters are all around me. Or actually, that one means angels. 333 is ascended masters. So, and it's what it means for you, not necessarily what it means for someone else. Whenever I see particular numbers as an example, then they mean something for me, not necessarily matches what the general public, the books and things like that would have to say. So it can be very particular. You can even get house numbers, birth dates, all of those kinds of things. It's really, really cool to be able to look at these signs and symbols and get an answer. Another really, really great sign or symbol are animals. Animals are really, really good at showing us what we need to know. A lot of times they may appear at a time when you're thinking about something, and all of a sudden a particular type of animal will appear. Generally, it's one that normally wouldn't appear in front of you, like, a cardinal, a red one will just pop in front of you, and all of a sudden you'll be like, oh, wait a minute. I was just thinking about, my deceased loved one. Or you may not have been thinking about them, and the cardinal lands on the ground in front of you, and you go, oh, I wonder who this is. If you're not sure who, as an example, a deceased loved one might be, ask yourself or ask the animal, go, hey, who are you representing? And the first person that pops into your head is probably it. Same thing with any interpretation of signs or symbols. You can ask, what does this mean? So as an example, another fun one, I was sitting in the kitchen at my parents' house. My sister, brother, and I were just, enjoying each other's company, talking about different things. And all of a sudden, I smelled really, really stinky cheese. I'm like, stinky cheese? Why am I smelling stinky cheese? Now, the thing about scent is that it's usually something that is not present in the house at the moment, and it tends to go back and forth under your nose. Like when you've seen on TV, they hold the smelling salts and they wave them back and forth under someone's nose. Well, it's the same sort of thing. And so, you'll smell the cheese and go, wait a minute, what is this? And it turned out one of my uncles liked to put really stinky cheese on his crackers, and he happened to be deceased. So he was just letting me know that he was there, and it was something particular to him. My mom also sends me smells scent of her cigarettes that she would smoke. She's also deceased. And so every time I'd smell these, and yes, it was her brand. And every time I would smell it, I'd go, oh, mom's here. Oh, isn't that nice? She's right here. So it's really great when you're paying attention and you notice these things. The whole idea is to be able to actually pay attention and understand what the sign or symbol means. And it's not necessarily only what it means, it's paying attention to what they are. The more you notice, the more signs you'll receive. And the signs can come in so many different ways. So I'm a wedding officiant. And so this one particular time, I was going to officiate at a park in Mississauga. And it was a gorgeous day, so beautiful walking into the park. And this little park had all kinds of trees around it and everything. It was so pretty. And I was going on a bridge over the pond, and there's bushes at the bottom of the bridge. And I'm walking along and stuff like this. And all of a sudden, this little boy, about 3 years old, comes around the corner, looks up at my face, grabs my hand, and says, do you want to come see my ducks? I couldn't say yes or no because he already had my hand and he was taking me to see his ducks. And it was such a cute little thing. And he's grabbing my hand, taking me to see his ducks. And he's talking about his ducks and how much he likes his ducks. And he's looking up at me and everything like this. And I recognized right away that this was a sign because it was so unexpected. I didn't even realize that the little boy was there because, I mean, the bushes were taller than him. So it was really cute when he did that. And upon reflection, when I was thinking about, you know, what this means, and it was, to me, it was recognizing the innocence within ourselves and how we have lost the ability to just, enjoy people when we meet them without prejudice, without any kind of expectations. We just meet them and enjoy them from that place of innocence. And, and also if you look up what duck means, which, you can look that up on the internet and it'll tell you what duck means. And that's another sign right there. So they're everywhere and they come at us from all angles. Most people would think, oh, well, it's just a little child. What does that mean? Right? So, and obviously the child is a child and the duck is a duck. They mean different things, but together they hold a different meaning. And then his sister came up and she looked to be about 5 and she was very, very shy. She was dressed as a princess. And because she was so shy, I asked her questions. I said, so are these your ducks? And she goes, yes. And I complimented her on her dress, and she absolutely was so happy. Now, her dress was pink. So you could look at the pink princess dress as a sign or a symbol as well. The fact that she was a bit shy might be a way of conveying to us through a metaphor, another sign or symbol, what exactly it means. Now, I'm not going to go into the elaborate, what does the color pink mean and all of this stuff. However, upon reflection, I can probably, get an idea of what it could mean. I can also ask my angels and my spiritual team what this means so that maybe they can send me some more signs and signals to be able to understand what that actually does mean. And maybe it doesn't reveal itself right away. Sometimes it'll be hours later or even days later when you'll understand what that sign or symbol actually means. So it's really, really fascinating when you're paying attention and, seeing all of these different ways that spirit connects with us really gives us some hope, understanding, knowing that we aren't alone here on this planet. What I really love about animals is that they will actually do what either angels or deceased loved ones or somebody will ask them to do. So I've got a little story about animals. So a few years ago, my friends and I went up to Manitoulin Island for vacation. We rented a 100-year-old house there, and it was basically a farmhouse on the farm. So it was secluded. There really wasn't any other houses within many, many, many miles, kilometers around. So we would sit outside, on the patio, and every night, around dusk-ish, we would get a show of different types of animals. And every night it was different. So what I did was I wrote down every animal that appeared and in what sequence. So it made it very, very interesting to see what I was being told every single day that we were out there. And we were seeing, different types of creatures that we normally haven't seen in a long time, like fireflies. You know, I don't see them here in Brampton, that's for sure. However, even at the cottage, I wasn't seeing them much, but on Manitoulin Island, there they were. Absolutely gorgeous. Really, really good to see them. And, looking them up to find out what they are. Or I was thinking about them and I was going, is that the light upon the journey? That we together can actually bring the light? Very, very interesting. And here's a funny little story. And this little sign or symbol was a stinky one. So here we were, Manitoulin Island. My sister and I were sitting out, watching the animal show. From the corner of my eye, I was like, oh, wait a minute, what is that over there? And it was a skunk ambling towards the front door of the house. And then he came around and sniffed the barbecue. Unfortunately, he was actually between me and the front door, which was the only way inside the house. We were a bit afraid to move because he was walking pretty fast towards us. And I thought that if we got up to go, he would turn and spray. Now, the interesting thing about skunks is that they only have a limited number of sprays, but you don't know which one he's at. So I didn't want to take the chance. So the interesting thing was, he comes over, he decides that he's going to go up my pant leg and try to sniff me. And the whole time I'm telling my sister, don't move, don't move. Anything you do, don't move. And then he climbs down. He didn't go that far, not even to my knees. So I'll just tell you that. And then he goes over and he does the same thing to her. And I kept telling her, don't move. Whatever you do, just stay still, don't move. So he climbs down. No incident happened at all. We were fine. As soon as he hopped off the deck, we ran into the house as fast as our legs could take us. Very, very fast. And we didn't come out that evening again, even though he probably didn't come back. So, what do you think it meant about the skunk? Well, if you think about it, people have a lot of respect for skunks because they know that at any time they can get sprayed if they move too fast or if the skunk feels threatened. They don't want to spray you, they really don't. However, if you think about it, they command respect. Are we commanding respect in our life? So every sign or symbol has a meaning, but it also needs context. So in this case, the respect of the skunk was trying to climb up my pant leg. And, you have to know how to handle the situation and not be afraid. So where are you being afraid in your life and not commanding respect? So these are things that you can ponder when you're actually looking at what the sign or symbol means in your life. It does have to have the context. A lot of times. Sometimes it's just a nice little old sign, like seeing 444 or 333, 222, which means you're on the right path, 777, which means to me that everything is falling into place. One of my favorites is 888, which is abundance for me. Whenever I see 888, I know that more abundance is coming. Now, what happens if you hit a dry spell? Say you've been seeing symbols all over the place and you're so happy, you get a symbol for this and a symbol for that, and then all of a sudden there aren't any, or appear not to be any. It could be that maybe they're more subtle than you're used to. And so therefore you're not getting them as clearly as you would normally. The one thing that you can do is ask your angels. I haven't seen any signs in a while. Could you send me something? There also may be a reason that in the times that you may not need to have a sign or a symbol happen in order for you to move forward. It may be that you just don't need it in that moment, or there's something you need to learn. So it's not about going, is there one over there? Is that a sign or a symbol? What about that one? What about that one? Because then what that does is it's the opposite of, looking at them and being aware of them, because now you're forcing it. And when you force it, it actually doesn't make it flow as easily as it normally would. So it's about allowing it to flow, being aware of what is out there and what are the signs and symbols. So when I'm driving and I'm looking for numbers, I'm not going, oh, I didn't get any this time. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe the next drive I'll see something, right? I'm not expecting that there'll be a sign or a symbol every single time. I'm just using my awareness to go, oh, what about those vehicles? Oh, is one over there? Usually they show up when I least expect it. All of a sudden a car will turn, like will change lanes in front of me, and there will be my 444. So, a lot of times it'll pop in when you least expect it. That's kind of how it goes, is that it'll be when you least expect it. So it's being aware and understanding that, you know what, it's actually okay that whether I do or don't. And it's just the simple awareness. And you'll know whether it really is a sign or a symbol because it pops in when you least expect it. You pretty well immediately know, like as in numbers, feathers, all of those kinds of things. You kind of go, oh, you know what? That definitely was a sign. And, it really, really makes it really cool to be able to pay attention and when you actually do get one. So here's another example of how signs and symbols can come through, and they can actually come through as words. So a few years ago, I received the guidance that I needed to get off wheat products. So a friend of mine told me about this particular book, and said, you really have to get this book. And you know how sometimes you go, yeah, I'll get that book at some point, right? And you kind of push it off and go, yeah, maybe later. So then, that afternoon, I was talking to my sister on the phone, and I mentioned that, I was told that it would be a good idea for me to get off wheat, not because I had any allergies or anything, but that it would be helpful for my health in the long run. So, I'm talking to her and she goes, oh, is it this book? And she names it. And I'm like, oh. In my head, I'm going, all right, there we go. I'm being told that that's the book I need to read, so that, it would give me the best chance. So that's how they can come through as something as simple as that. I have many, many, many stories that I could tell about signs and symbols and how they came through, metaphors, so many different things. And it's really, really interesting when you are paying attention, because then they happen all the time. Yeah, there might be a dry spell here or two, but there they are. A lot of times signs and symbols will repeat themselves, especially if it's something we're not paying attention to. It will get repeated, like a thought process. Or if you're not paying attention right away, you'll see them repeat themselves over and over. How many people have seen 1111? How many people have seen 111, which is 1111? And I've seen it all the time on the internet. What does this mean, 1111? And it really depends on when it came in and what was the context. Generally, what 1111 means is that you need to keep your thoughts, pure and clear and clean, and keep them focused on what you need to focus on ahead. Now, you might have a different meaning for that, and that's okay too. Nothing is set in stone about signs and symbols. It's what it means to you. And so it's really paying attention to that and going, oh, okay, that's what it means. And being open to the interpretations, because again, it might not mean anything until later. Now, I'll share one last story with you, a very interesting little story. I guess you could say it did have a sign or a symbol in it because it was something I was looking for. So I was on vacation, and when you rent out a place, they don't always have everything you need. So in this case, I was looking for ice. So I had gone through the cashier and everything like this, and I paid for my other items. And, I was thinking as I finished, I was like, oh crap, I forgot to get the ice. So I'm standing there waiting for my friend to come through. And all of a sudden, the cashier yells out, "The ice is over there," and points right to it. Meanwhile, she was like far away from me and she had no idea I was looking for ice. And so it's following that as a sign for where I needed to find what I needed. And it was really hilarious that she yelled it. Why did she need to yell it when the guy was right in front of me? Or I mean, in front of her. So it's really fascinating how these signs and symbols come about. And they're everywhere. All we need to do is pay attention. And then we'll get everything that we need. And it's a lot of fun. Make it a fun game for yourself, and you'll see what you need to see, hear, or feel, or know what it is. So those are our signs and symbols, and a lot about, paying attention and allowing spirit to tell you. Another thing you can do is, as you're walking along, as an example, in the park or a wooded place or something like this, look around, and as you're thinking about one of the problems you're having, be aware of what your attention is drawn to. So you might be drawn to a particular flower. You might be drawn to a particular tree, or maybe, as someone who has told me about one of the signs that they've seen, they might see a particular type of bird that you wouldn't think would land in a tree. And you're like, wait a minute, what does that mean? The fact that they don't normally fly and they land in a tree might mean that you can do what you didn't think you could do, even though you were told you weren't supposed to be able to. So this might be the sign telling you to go ahead. So there's so many different ways that you can use signs and symbols, so many different ways that you can be present and aware of what's going on and use them in your everyday life. It's really cool. And I can tell you hundreds of stories about signs and symbols. And for tonight, that's what we've got. So this is Reverend Barbara Kawa. And if you want to be able to reach me, you can go to my website at www.barbarakawa.com. And I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.